Hello and welcome to our presentation, Free Field Dispersion Characteristics of piezo-MEMS Microspeaker Tweeter Array. This is a co-presented slide deck in cooperation with HBK, Vince Ray, and myself, Michael Ricci from XMEMS Labs. The test project was to understand the behavior of the tweeter arrays. Each tweeter array is positioned above a 3-inch woofer in a small desktop speaker form factor. These are some basic 3D printed housings that we came up with to create these desktop speakers. There's 16 microspeakers in each tweeter array, so there's a total of 32 piezo-MEMS microspeakers used in this pair of speakers. What we needed to do was get them prepared to take into an anechoic chamber and do some free field measurements. We wanted to understand the dispersion characteristics of the tweeter array. And to do so, we needed to power them up and also control a crossover and have an audio bridge. So that's the box you see in the center. We have provisions to activate and deactivate the woofer, the tweeter array, activate the crossover, a couple of EQ curves if required, and then some other functionality. To make polar plot measurements of a loudspeaker in an anechoic chamber, a turntable is required. The turntable used is the 9640, newly released from B&K. Quite a pleasure to work with. It allowed us to mount our speaker on the turntable horizontally and vertically and rotate it up to 360 degrees and controlling the indexing of it through scripting control software. The 4939 microphone was used to capture the data. It's a 4 Hz to 100 kilohertz free field mic. We powered that with the 1708 mic preamp, and we used the 3670 interface to play back wave files of pink noise, which was the input stimulus to the speaker for the measurements. Another newly released product from B&K is the electroacoustic engine, which is the test and measurement software that was used to capture the data and generate the spreadsheets with the captures of the position of the turntable and the audio, which we created the polar plots with. And of course, our amplifier DSP box that we needed to drive the speakers was placed outside of the anechoic chamber, and then we ran some mini XLRs into the chamber to power the speaker. And we leased a large anechoic from SETICOM here in Silicon Valley. A closer look at the device under test. We'll focus in on the tweeter array, as the 3-inch woofer was not active during these measurements and won't be a part of the measurement results that we'll show in the following slides. The tweeter array is comprised of 16 of the top port piezo-MEMS microspeakers. These devices are called Montara as the product name. And you can see that the holder for them is actually flared out from the center pointing forward and the sides by a slight 3-degree angle. This allows a little bit of a wider dispersion characteristics from the center of the array. It's 2x4, symmetrical next to each other, and as you can see in the image here, 3-degree flare. Not much of a waveguide here. It's really just placed into some plastic, and it's the top port. So really what we're going to show in the polar plot measurements is the air coupling of this 16-cell array measured at 1 meter. I think you'll be surprised at the dipole characteristics of this type of tweeter array. We were surprised ourselves that the back vents are actually producing quite a bit of SPL and create a very nice spatial and open sound for a small pair of desktop speakers, as you'll see in the subsequent slides. Since piezo-MEMS is a new class of transducer, I want to talk briefly about the difference between standard dynamic driver coil-based speakers and piezo-MEMS transduction. The piezo-MEMS microspeakers are a voltage capacitive base motor structure, not an inductive coil-based structure. So unlike traditional speakers, we take voltage to operate and not current. Also, there's no magnets or coils used here. The work is being performed by the PZT film encapsulated into the semiconductor device, and the input stimulus goes into the amplifier. The amplifier provides a bias voltage to the membrane to get into an operational position, and then boost converts up volts peak to generate the deflection of the diaphragm and make sound. Not illustrated here is the top port lid on the device. But what I wanted to show was the back vent. So each one of the radiating cells inside of the microspeaker is back vented. So obviously sound comes out the top port, but on the back side, we also want to control decay or stiffness on the back side of that diaphragm. And so there's back vents. What's interesting here in this tweeter array application is that quite a bit of sound, the reverse phase wave sound coming out of the back vents is quite audible and makes for a very nice sounding and open desktop speaker. Henceforth, this project to measure these, get the polar plot responses, and share them with you. Setting up in the anechoic chamber, we positioned the speakers on top of the B&K automated turntable. We used a little bit of acoustic dampening material so that we didn't get reflections off of the metal top of the turntable. Also helped us to adjust the height so it was directly on axis to the microphone, which was positioned 1 meter away. We generated a pink noise from a reference wave file, and at 1 meter away, 82.5 dB SPL C weighting, so that's dBc at 1 meter away. And we positioned the desktop speaker vertically and horizontally and rotated it on its axis, indexing it with the control software for the data capture. Again, the woofer is not active for the measurement results we'll show. We just wanted to characterize the response characteristics of the tweeter array. Hi, Vince, this is all you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain what we did during the data collection. But it started here on the left with the EA-Engine, or the electroacoustic engine, which is an application that HBK released this year. And this application is really designed as a toolbox, so you can really develop your own app. And I use a Visual Basic here for that one, to collect time data and to post-process an RTA. We use an R80 for this measurement. So the application, log the time data. And once the time data is captured, the RTA will be calculated. So this is fairly easy to do. It takes really 20 lines of code. That's it. The second computer here is the one that controls the turntable. We connected to the turntable via LAN, so it was a very long cable. That's kind of the nice benefit of the LAN interface. And this turntable is a web interface also, so you can be on Google Chrome here and access all the buttons you would have on the turntable. So that's kind of convenient. Also, but we didn't have the time to do it, there's a LAN REST API which can be used to control automatically the turntable. So that could have been integrated in the Visual Basic. And it takes, in Visual Studio, it takes another 20-30 lines of codes to really control and automate this, the rotation of the turntable. Yeah, this measurement was considered an open loop measurement, and you can see your great colleague VJ on the top right of this picture here, controlling the stimulus, and he had a DAC and DSP, and we use a pink noise because we're doing an RTA test, So I just want to mention also that we have an audio interface, the B&K 3670. It's a 10-channel, 8 input, 2 output, and it works on 96 kilohertz, 24 bits. Very clean audio interface, and it has also an ASIO driver. But let's discuss the results here. Michael, back to you.
And the results of the measurements. So the tweeter array is crossed over right around 2500, and so we started the capture at 2400. You can see some sound starting to come out here, not very loud, but we are exhibiting response, and so we're starting our measurements here at 2.4K. And as we move up the spectrum, you can see that the SPL is going up. one of the unique attributes of the piezo-MEMS motor structure is that the sensitivity of the microspeaker increases over frequency. So as we go up the frequency spectrum here, you'll see the volume increase as well. Here at basically 5300, you're seeing more SPL. The shape is actually just expanding. And so again, that increase in sensitivity over frequency is coming into play here, and the sound pressure level is increasing. Rising up to 6500, you can see the shape is staying consistent and more SPL being generated. And at 8500, almost near identical shapes in the vertical and the horizontal axis. So for an open, airy sound from a small pair of desktop speakers, very nice dispersion characteristics here. Wish you all can hear them. Hopefully that could be arranged at some point in the future. We're encouraging manufacturers to consider piezo-MEMS microtransducers in these tweeter arrays for various types of form factors, not only small desktop speakers, but I think sound bars would be an ideal application for something like this with this type of dispersion, and possibly even maybe even if you sealed the back volume, you can put them in the A-pillars of cars or in the headrest seats. There's probably all types of applications for small tweeter arrays. Here up at 10K, you're seeing again almost the same shape in horizontal and vertical polar patterns, which is very much ideal for a dipole type of dispersion. And you can see the sound pressure levels increasing over frequency as the transduction mechanism becomes more efficient with the same equivalent input stimulus, but it's just getting closer to its resonant frequency, and the sensitivity being increasing. It's just being able to generate more sound as we go up the spectrum. And up here at 17.5, near the highest SPL we were able to measure, greater than 80 dB at a meter away, and quite a wide and high response from very small form factor speakers in this 45 millimeter diagonal array. And at the top end of the spectrum, a bit over 20 kilohertz, you can see we're past our resonance here with these particular form factor speakers, and SPL starting to drop a little bit and the patterns becoming a little more constrained. So that completes the captures. This data was generated by building tables of the position of the speaker on the turntable, and the measurement results from the microphone is captured. We generated a vertical spreadsheet with all of the positions and the SPLs generated, and a horizontal. And special thanks to VJ from our systems team for putting together this MATLAB plotter that enabled us to look at the 3D polar pattern view in the horizontal and the vertical polar patterns and the frequency that the display is being rendered at as well. How are these small microspeakers able to perform so well in a free air application? Well, I believe it comes down to a couple of their unique attributes and inherent behaviors. Most notably is the impulse response and the group delay. And also phase response. So let's start in the upper left-hand side and take a look at the impulse response. You'll see the XMEMS, piezo-MEMS microtransducer on the left, and high-end IEM or in-ear monitor class audiophile grade dynamic driver on the right. Below that is the CSD plots from those two drivers, and you can see where the resonance is for each one of them. For the Montara piezo-MEMS microspeaker, it's up near the high end of the audio band, and when the stimulus stops, that speaker settles really quickly. When you compare that to a traditional dynamic driver, again, the plot speaks for itself. There is still a bit of time required for that transduction mechanism to settle down. If you look at the group delay and the phase in the upper right, this was a measurement of the same Montara speaker against a different dynamic driver. This was harvested from a consumer TWS ANC headset, popular company. And what you see in the orange dots is that dynamic driver, and the blue diamonds being the piezo-MEMS microspeaker. And you can see that the dynamic driver is operating in the millisecond time, and the piezo-MEMS is in the microsecond time, so quite a bit faster response, which means more precise sound reproduction and much more well behaved in the time domain. So spatial realization, separation between instruments is really clearly represented. And then another attribute I think helps for these 16 drivers to behave as one when coupling in air is the fact that the phase is so tight. The very good phase shift. We're looking at 2 degrees shift over a wide bandwidth here. We've since measured out to 10K and still can hold this 2 degree phase from 100 to 10, and it's fantastic. Part-to-part variation is controlled by the manufacturing process. So sensitivity, frequency response, and phase is also very tightly matched for these types of solid-state semiconductor speakers. So they behave very well in a large array like this. I'd like to acknowledge a few people that were critical in helping to execute this project successfully. VJ from our systems engineering team, senior systems engineer, and also mechanical designer. He built the speakers, designed the speakers, working with Dr. Liu, our senior director of the systems engineering team, who is a software engineer himself, and also picked up soldering irons and oscilloscopes and everything else to help VJ build this EVK kit of these desktop speakers. I'd like to acknowledge both of their hard work in creating what we thought was just a little fun project to see if these little tiny speakers meant for in-ear monitors, hearing aids, and consumer earbuds can actually make enough sound in free air. And we've all been pleasantly surprised by their results. And finally, a big thanks to Joe Pacheco from SETICOM, audio test engineer and buddy of ours that helped us get into the large anechoic there at SETICOM and pretty much got everything set up, calibrated, and helped us even not make a couple of mistakes that we were about to do. So thanks so much, Joe, for helping us out with the project.